District Attorney Sandra Doorley, Sheriff Todd Baxter. My name is Chris Chichester. I'm an innocent man. This is a cover letter that you will receive at your offices tomorrow. Registered mail, return receipt. I'll read the cover letter. January 12, 2023. Sandra Doorley, District Attorney, 47 South Pittsburgh Street, Rochester, New York, 14604. Todd K. Baxter, Sheriff, 130 South Plymouth Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14604. Comply with the attached PDF dated January 12, 2023, that is 70 Freedom of Information Law documents. This includes identification of my prosecutor's silence. Mail the information I demand to the address on the foil. 2 YouTube links. YouTube projection, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, Judge Alex Renzi. YouTube accountability, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, Judge Alex Renzi. Language requires precision. I went with the most basic word for this YouTube about you, Todd Baxter, and you, Sandra Doorley, and it's corrupt. And there are 70 reasons I'm holding in my hand here as to why you're corrupt. And perhaps there are more than 500. You will refuse to comply with every one because you're corrupt, because the law is a joke to you. And you demand information every single day at your offices. And when information is demanded of you, there is a fanatical refusal because you're corrupt. So this is copy 2. Trinity Ross, United States Attorney for the Western District of New York. Mark Phillips, Monroe County Public Defender. Regina Harper, Monroe County Public Defender. Alex Renzi, Supervising Judge, New York State Supreme Court. Paul C. Metzer, Penfield Town Court. James Millie Jr., Penfield Town Court. These last 3 names. Your prosecutor, whoever it is, has forced me into these disgusting rooms in Penfield Town Court and New York State Supreme Court where you know that these hacks can just declare me guilty. A prosecutor has never talked in court, but I have a prosecutor assigned to my court appearances. The prosecutor knows that to try to make an argument in court and exercise that First Amendment right and accuse me of a crime is ludicrous. That's why your prosecutor, you repulsive party-switching hack, Sandra Doorley, is relying on the fiction and the lie of whatever the criminal charge is. A prosecutor has never talked in court, and I have been in jail 6 times with you smashing my civil and constitutional rights into a million little pieces. Sheriff Todd Baxter, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, Paul C. Metzer and John P. Menzo Jr. in Penfield Town Court, and Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court. This is, again, why you're corrupt. How did I go from Penfield Town Court where I live to New York State Supreme Court in Rochester? And why am I appearing in front of Alex Renzi, who's a supervising judge, and there are 18 of them over there at the hackocracy of New York State Supreme Court, which is astounding to me. And when I move back to Albany, which should be soon, one of the first things I'll do is look up Albany County and Supreme Court and see if there are 18 in that county, because the county is roughly the same size, as Monroe County. So you're receiving this here. Now, fanaticism is right here. Ellie Roth, this is 2025 Penfield Road, and I've said this over and over and over. I'm going to hold the phone so perhaps you can see what I'm going to say. I hate to say this word because I know that you can ridicule me and attack me and level me when I use this word, but it's your word. This is a surveillance device at 2025 Penfield Road, and I've seen the images multiple times. And when I was initially calling this surveillance device, you were calling Lindsey Barron, Monroe County Office of Mental Health, to come to my residence next to where this business is at 26 Sanders Farm Drive. Todd Baxter, you disgusting, sickening fascist. Is this private technology 2025 Penfield Road owned by Consumer Insights where Elliot Roth is the president of this business? Or did you buy it and fix it for me? And I've said this on the foil. And I've said this over and over and over. What's the answer? You Benito Mussolini skinhead. Is it private technology that you're using, or is it your technology at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office? A warrant for my arrest for a walk through a parking lot I've walked through 4,000 times because of $67,000 cop from hell, Shannon Meyer. Really? There are 2 of my neighbors right there. I don't know if you can see it. I'll hold it up, the glare on the phone. I think you can see my neighbor right there. And he has his dog. He is a terrific guy because him and I would talk about our dogs. And in the last foil that I sent you on January 10th, I included a picture of me with my Shih Tzu. When I adopted my Shih Tzu from the Saints at Lollipop Farm Humane Society, one of the questions I was asked in 2012 when I went there with my ex-girlfriend, Laura, because Laura and I lived in Webster's, have you ever been arrested? And the answer was no. I was 47 years old. If the answer is yes, we cannot adopt a dog. And this is why this matters. Because when I eventually move back to Albany County, I hope to make this move in the next 4 to 6 weeks because I have to get out of here. Because you'll arrest me again as Psychopaths Incorporated. I'll be in jail again if I do not leave this county that I've lived in for 10 years. And if I go back to a dog adoption society, I will have to answer yes to the question, have you been arrested? I will not be able to adopt a dog. You came to my residence to demand my dog, Todd Baxter, which I've talked about. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not even going to talk about it because it's exhausting. And that is the fanaticism of the cops. This is why people hate the police. I've said over and over on here, there's a hatred in the United States of America for the police that I have never seen in my long life. And it's because of the cops and the police like you, Todd Baxter. One phone call from this Nayrod Shah, 50-year-old man who lives with his 7-year-old mother, and there you are, demanding my dog when I've walked my dog the same way for 7 years and 4,000 times. So, now, perhaps I may hold up my phone later on this YouTube. I don't know how long it's going to last because I have to read these 70 Freedom of Information Law documents. If you don't read me. Because I'm talking to the United States Department of Justice. I have an audience of one. That's Trinity Ross. She's the one I really care about, even though I care about what Mark Phillips and Regina Harper think about me because I've been defended with honor and character and integrity by Mark and Regina. So this is it right here. And I've sent this to you different ways. Sometimes if I don't have the time to go over to Park Avenue to UPS, 620 Park Avenue, I'll walk right down East Main Street to the post office, which is what I did today. So this is why this is certified mail or registered mail return receipt, I call it, because the return receipt comes back to me on a green card. So the card will come back to me. This is who it went to today. Chef Todd Baxter. I'll double check this here. Yes. Chef Todd Baxter here. District Attorney Sandra Doorley here. Alex Renzi, New York State Supreme Court here. Paul C. Metzler. James P. Miller Jr. Mark Phillips. Regina Harper. And the most important name, Trinity Ross, who's the United States Attorney for Western District of New York. And it is also tracked. So, and the printing on this January 12th was $102 here. So, I'm looking for it right here. Pardon me. That's what it says here, January 12th. I have different cover letters because that's the January 12th cover letter. And then when I communicated with you with Psychopaths Incorporated, that's the January 11th cover letter. So over and over and over, I'm demanding information. The information that interests me the most as far as Psychopaths Incorporated are the names of my prosecutors of silence because I will seek their disbarment with the grievance committee, which is on East Avenue. And I will seek your disbarment, Sandra Doorley. And I'm not trying to engage in any hyperbole and be ridiculous. You are unleashing your disgusting, repulsive criminal organization upon me, which I view as the same way I looked at the mafia in New York City. To destroy me, smash me into a million little pieces, and then you're refusing to disclose the names of your fanatical, degenerate prosecutors that are doing this to me. So when I go to East Avenue to the Attorney Grievance Committee, I will seek your disbarment. And I hope I'm not laughed out of the room when somebody says to me, what are you talking about? It's a duly elected district attorney. Because I could talk to them for 3 hours about what's happened to me. And I would hope that the United States Department of Justice would agree with me when I contact its employees. Because there's the United States Department of Justice, that's Trinity Ross in Buffalo. And then there's the United States Department of Justice in Washington, D.C., where I used to ride my bike by the Department of Justice. I never thought that I would be contacting its employees, in particular, the number one employee, Merrick Garland, about what will eventually happen to me in my life. But when I would ride my bike by the Department of Justice, I would have the same thought that I believe that hundreds of thousands of citizens have had even that year. This is the most powerful institution in the United States of America that has more power than the White House. They have regulatory power and control over you with DOJ. And I hope they will agree when I contact DOJ in Washington, D.C., that they've really heard nothing like as far as what's happened to me. A warrant for my arrest for walking to a park lot I've walked for 4,000 times. When I walk outside and tell Steve Desner and Brock Coltree and Lawn Care nobody owns the land next to my residence, and 6 of your Monroe County Sheriff Office employees are there, I'm charged with criminal contempt second, Todd Baxter, by $67,000 Shannon Meyer, who's telling 6 other sheriff officers to come with her to my residence. For all I did is tell a man on the track that nobody owns the land next to my residence. That's not a crime, Todd Baxter. I go to a gym called PW Fitness 2 weeks later. I'm on the bench press. Up walks to me a man named Jermaine Ben. He stands over me, punches down. My head snaps back violently. We go out to the vehicle when Andrew Reale arrives. Your $79,000 employee, Todd Baxter, told Jermaine Benman what to say as I sat in the backseat of his police vehicle. Todd Baxter, Jermaine Benman walks around to the side of the vehicle. He says, I want to press charges against you with those 7 words. I'm charged with harassment. Second. Todd Baxter, Sheriff of Monroe County. Who did I harass? Do you understand what I just said, Todd Baxter? Those are not crimes. It's not a crime, you skinhead, stooge, and party switcher, for me to tell Steve Desmond at Brockholm Tree and Lawn Care nobody owns the land next to my residence. That's not a crime. Do you understand when I'm violently attacked at a gym and sitting in the backseat of the vehicle, it's impossible for me to harass anyone. That's not a crime when I'm sitting in the backseat of the vehicle. And then, again, Psychopaths Incorporated. I leave my residence at midnight 2 years ago. I walk alongside my residence. Now, you pay attention, you party switching skinhead stooge. When I began to run, because of what's coming at me, I never stopped running. Don Benedetto, your $85,000 psychopath, and another employee with the last name Human come running at me because they walked onto the private property of my 72-year-old neighbor and hid waiting for me. I walk alongside my residence. I see these 2 individuals start to run at me. I turn around and run away. As I never stopped running, I could not swing a hammer at Benedetto or Houlihan. Do you understand what I just said, Todd Baxter and Sandra Doorley? I never stopped running. And pay attention, Michelle Crowley, because this is why you indicted me without calling me to your grand jury, because I'm your ham sandwich. I run alongside my then residence, 26 Sanders Farm Drive. Houlihan and Benedetto from me. I run up the back porch. Houlihan grabs my arm. The hammer I just grabbed, because I used the hammer to fix my bike. You party-switching psychopath, Todd Baxter. Goes up, I pull away, I run through the sliding glass door that I just exited 60 seconds earlier. So Todd Baxter, you're disgusting, sickening, revolting cretin with the last name Houlihan went back to Jonestown at your sheriff's office and stated I swung a hammer at him. And this is how the concoction of attempted felony assault from me is created by Jonestown Houlihan. And then when Michelle Crowley, when you convene the grand jury, you don't call me to the grand jury. I do not know the grand jury's convened. And you certainly didn't call me to the district attorney's office for an interview. And in the grand jury, when Houlihan states that I swung a hammer at him, that's where Houlihan, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, commits perjury. Michelle Crowley, if you're listening to me, respond to what I just said. And this is where you can reach me. Michelle Crowley, right here. I'm communicating with you, Michelle Crowley, with the official finger of Brooklyn, New York, because I had to tell my mother and father and friends and family members I'm indicted for this fiction, for this lie, as your personal ham sandwich. Right here, Christopher Chichester, 620 Park Avenue, PMB number 361, Rochester, New York, 14604. And when I pursue your disbarment, Michelle Crowley, there'll be 5,000 words alone on this about how you're convening the grand jury. Who are the grand juries, Michelle Crowley? 1, how did you pick the grand jurors? 2, Michelle Crowley. 3, is there a transcript? I have not written the Freedom of Information law yet for it. There is documentation. There must be documentation for this grand jury. Find it, Michelle Crowley, and just send it to me, because that would be the ethical thing to do. And since you're bankrupt, Michelle Crowley, wielding this grand jury upon me with these 18 to 24 people, I don't know. And I don't know how you pick them to indict me when I don't know what's convened. I expect to receive nothing from you. Do you understand, Michelle Crowley, why I just said you're corrupt? Do you get it? You convene the grand jury. I don't know what's convened. I don't know the names of the grand jurors. Houlihan purged himself to the grand jury, and you don't know anything about this night because you don't want to know anything. You want to exist in total and complete ignorance, Michelle Crowley, as I'm indicted as an innocent man. So, Christopher, what are you talking about? You went to a gym and a man stood over you and punched you in the face, and you're sitting in the backseat of the vehicle and you're charged with arrest. Second, and who did you harass? And Christopher, you just told a man on his tractor that nobody owns the land next to your residence and there in Penfield, and you're charged with a crime, and 6 police officers showed up. And Christopher, you ran up your back porch and 2 police officers are chasing you, and one of them said he swung a hammer at you, and this is how you're indicted. The reason why I say this is that I don't know the exact language, but this is that my mother used. This is my mother. This is my mother. My mother's saying words to this effect to me. Because every time Psychopaths Incorporated, the district attorney's office, sheriff's office levels me, every time I get out of jail, I had to make phone calls to my mother and father. And if a period of time would go by, I would even say to my mother and father, if you don't hear from me for 48 to 72 hours, I'm in jail. So when I was in Livingston County Jail, my father had to put money on my account because I had no money. I couldn't eat the food. There were times I'd be walking around in jail, and a number of times I've been in jail because I will not force myself to eat food. And I was just like when I was in the Army too. I was just go hungry. I'm not forcing myself to eat certain foods. And my father was putting money on my account in Livingston County Jail so I could eat. So my mother's using my full name. It is a rare thing for her to use my full name. And when I'm on the phone, I'm listening to my 82-year-old mother using my full name. I have to keep it together. And there are times where I have to keep it together thinking about that right now. No child, no son or daughter should ever have to tell their parents what I've had to tell my parents over the last 4 years because what you've done to me and destroyed my life. Todd Baxter, Sandra Doorley, Paul C. Messer, James Fleming Jr., and Alex Renzi. And I'm confident that Ms. Ross at the United States Department of Justice will agree. And here's my little guy right there. The fanatical cops coming to the home of an innocent citizen to adopt a dog, to confiscate his dog. And then when I got out of jail, the first 2 times in Monroe County, Livingston County, I had to go back to Lollipop to get him. Because Steve Schicker of Penfield Animal Control these 2 times had to go into my residence to get him. Because when I'm going to court, I'm thinking I'm going home. And first time I went to court and think I'm going home, it was a court appearance. The second time, you followed me to Wegmans, where I was deposited in Livingston County Jail. And then I had to go up to the circular desk and speak to the jail employee and say, my dog is in my residence. Somebody needs to go get my dog. So now, as far as how many times I've demanded the names of my prosecutors there, it's over and over and over. And I changed the way I communicate with you because I was using registered mail return receipts. This is how many times. Now, Sandra Doorley, this is how many times. I've read all these on here. I'm not going to do that again because it would take me 15 minutes, 25 minutes to read all these because I have to figure out the signatures. This is how many times when I'm holding in my hand, I'm demanding names of my prosecutor's silence. Do you understand why I use the word corrupt, Sandra Doorley? This is it. This comes back to me. Every single time when I'm holding my hand, I've demanded you disclose the names of my prosecutor's silence, and you refused, which I'm doing again today, which you're going to sign for tomorrow, and you refuse. Here is UPS now. This is how many times too. Every single freedom of information law that I've demanded, I'd say about 85% are in here. Do you fail to understand why it corrupts Sandra Doorley? Do you fail to understand why it corrupt Todd Baxter? Answer is yes. Elliot Spitzer did not know he was corrupt when he resigned to disgrace in 2008, and that's why he ran for New York City Controller 5 years later. Lyndon Johnson didn't know he was corrupt. If Lyndon Johnson read all 4 volumes by Robert Caro, the great Robert Caro, he would not know why he's corrupt. You will never know why you're corrupt. District Attorney Sandra Doorley, Sheriff Todd Baxter, Paul C. Metro, and James Fleming Jr. in Penfield Town Court, and Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court. Because you live in a delusional and psychotic 1984. So you're going to refuse to comply with every single one. I'm going to say this again. These are the receipts. It's coming to you. You'll look at it. This is what corruption is. When I say you're corrupt, this is it. It's dated January 12th right here. This is specifically what corruption is. This first one that I'm going to read. You will look at this right here. This one here is for you, Sandra Doorley. This first one on here, you, Sandra Doorley, will look at and read, and then you will decide, I'm not going to comply with that. That specifically is why you're corrupt. And when I read every single one of these, all 70, and you refuse to comply with all 70 times I read this, 70 times you refuse, that specifically, precisely is why you're corrupt. My name is Christopher Chichester. I'm an innocent man. This is the Freedom of Information Law. The total number of contracts signed by District Attorney Sandra Doorley to purchase products, commodities, goods, materials for the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. What's the answer? It's corruption and contracting. How do you get your computers, your desks, your pens, your pencils, your pads, every single thing in that revolting shack? How is it paid for? Freedom of Information Law. The contract signed by District Attorney Sandra Doorley, the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, to purchase vehicles for the Monroe County District Attorney's Office to include the name of the contractor, the total amount expended in tax dollars, 3, the total number of vehicles purchased by make and model. Public officials, depending on their status, have vehicles. Are you such an institution at the district attorney's office. Are you Sandra Doorley? Because I'm absolutely convinced that you have a car and driver, and I'm going to read that next file momentarily. How many employees at the district attorney's office have vehicles that you issue to those employees? How many vehicles do you have at the district attorney's office? Who's the contractor? This specifically, precisely is why you're corrupt, because you refuse. And when I contact Thomas P. DiNapoli in the next 4 weeks, I'm going to send him every single foil that I've been reading. I'll say, ask her, the district attorney of Monroe County, about this foil year and vehicles at her office. This is vehicles, and if you have a chauffeur, you drive yourself into the office, you pathetic diva, like an ordinary New Yorker, or are you driven into the district attorney's office? Answer me, you pathetic diva. Freedom of Information Law. The contract signed by District Attorney Sandra Doorley to purchase one, an automobile or automobiles. 2, a driver or chauffeur for District Attorney Sandra Doorley. 3, office supplies. Something as innocuous as office supplies can be corruption in contracting. Freedom of Information Law. Total number of contracts signed by Sheriff Todd K. Baxter to purchase products, commodities, goods, materials for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Is there some confusion here from you, Todd Baxter? Do you fail to understand what I'm demanding of you? When you walk into your office, you sit at that desk. That's not a desk that you brought from your home, that you've had for your 30 eternal years as a cop where you've wasted your pathetic life. That desk in your office is paid for by the taxpayers, just like every good, every material, every commodity, every product. I want to know where every penny is. Todd Baxter, do you understand me? Tell me what the answer is to this. Freedom of Information Law. The contract signed by Sheriff Todd K. Baxter to purchase firearms from Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees to include 1, the name of the firearms contractor, 2, the number of firearms purchased, 3, the total amount of taxpayer dollars expended to purchase firearms. You have an arsenal. And you, Todd Baxter, since you're a veteran, I don't know if you were at a permanent station or if you're Reserve or National Guard, but where I was, in the 17th Cavalry, when you had your weapon, you had to return your weapon. I remember going into this room and looking at everything that was in there. And as a young man at 20, 21 years old, I really was in awe of looking at these different weapons, because all I had was the M16. I didn't have some of these other, like an M60 or, some machine gun and some of the other things that they had there at the Cav. I read the word is awe. I'm trying not to exaggerate here about my experience. It was an arsenal, as far as I understand an arsenal. Do you have an arsenal at the Sheriff's Office? It's not just the handguns, it's long guns, it's rifles, it's other things. And every single one of those weapons can be used to kill an innocent citizen. So account for your arsenal. Todd Baxter. And this is how I demand you account for your arsenal. Sheriff Todd Baxter doesn't know if he's a Republican or Democrat, because he'll say anything. An inventory of Freedom of Information Law. An inventory of weapons at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office by the number and type of weapons. That is 1, identification by brand name. 2, types of weapons that are automatic and semi-automatic. Types of weapons that are handguns and long guns. 4, the total number of weapons. 5, the name of the weapons contractor and total amount of tax dollars of the contract. Is there confusion? Do you need me to clarify this? If you require clarification, you skinhead party switcher, and contact me here at 620 Park Avenue, PMB number 361, Rochester, New York, 14604. Or you can call me on the phone, and you can tell me you want me to appear in front of one corrupt judge, so you can just declare me guilty when you psychopaths at the district attorney's office don't have to make an argument that I've committed a crime. So that's happened to me 6 times. So you can call me here at 813-648-4441 and go berserk on my voicemail. Because your entire existence at the district attorney's and sheriff's office is berserk. Freedom of Information Law. Contract signed by Sheriff Todd Baxter of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office to purchase vehicles for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office to include the name of the contractor, the total amount expended tax dollars, the total number of vehicles purchased by make and model. This is not just any vehicle. Every sheriff's office requires a specially manufactured vehicle to go at high speeds. Who is it for you? Todd Baxter. When you look at this and you decide to refuse, because you will decide to refuse, and that certifies yet again your corruption. Why? Why will you refuse to comply? You're signing for this. It's coming right here. And you will look at it and refuse despite the fact that tax dollars paid for every single vehicle that I see on East Main Street in Pendle, where your employee is sitting in that vehicle paid for the taxpayers doing nothing. That I used to see at 2157 Pempe Road alongside Wegmans, doing nothing. Your employees are throughout Monroe County sitting in their vehicles doing nothing. So how much does that vehicle cost the taxpayers of Monroe County for your psychopaths to be sitting in it doing nothing? This is corruption, fascism, hatred. Lee LaRoque, where's my Chromebook? I've said this over and over. Lee LaRoque, you copied on here. What are you doing in my residence? Did you contact my two landlords? I have two landlords, one of whom is dead. The father is Antonino Spano Fairport. The son is Giuseppe Spano, who's 6 feet under, and hell's 5,000 degrees for him. So, Lee LaRoque, you want to get into my residence, and you got together with Paul C. Metzer. There is no probable cause for you, Lee LaRoque, to take anything out of my residence. And you took my Acer Chromebook out of my residence because you read the emails and you examined the hard drive, and you're trying to concoct a crime for me, you 40-plus pounds, overweight fat girl, Lee LaRoque, using my Chromebook. Where's my Chromebook, Lee LaRoque? Please tell me these 3 words. I don't know. Because I believe that that's the answer. What's the probable cause, Paul C. Metzer and Lee LaRoque, to take my Chromebook out of my residence where I used to live at 26 Sanders Farm Drive? This is where there's no accountability for you, and I've used that word on YouTube. Accountability, where you do not have to defend the consequences of your actions because your actions are criminal. This is an illegal search and seizure, Paul C. Metzer and Lee LaRoque. Freedom of Information Law. The documentation signed by $28,000 Paul C. Metzer in Penfield Town Court that is a, quote, search warrant, end quote, to allow $91,000 Lee LaRoque, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, to enter 26 Sanders Farm Drive, Penfield, for the confiscation of the Acer Chromebook owned by Christopher Chichester. I go to this gym, PW Fitness. Jermaine L. Beman stands over me, punches down, like I said, repeatedly. We go out to the vehicle. I'm charged with harassment, second, sitting in the backseat of the vehicle. I get a subpoena. I have to go into Penfield Town Court because Jermaine L. Beman has to appear in front of you, James Finley Jr. Do you know what I'm about to say, James Finley Jr.? Because on this YouTube product from Google, I've said this over and over and over about you, and I've used an app called TikTok where I've said this sentence to you, James Finley Jr. I get the subpoena. Jessica Wagner of the District Attorney's Office got together with you, James Finley Jr., and Jermaine Beman, who violently attacks me. You want to free this violent thug and criminal, James Finley Jr. So I arrived at the subpoena. Your employee at Penfield Town Court immediately came up to me and said, "Are you Christopher Chichester?" I said, yes. She said, "You have to leave." I said, "Why?" She just said, "You have to leave." Well, I left. I stood out in the hallway. Beman, I see, walks in with his attorney. He's in there less than 5 minutes. Beman walks out. I'm thinking, what happened? I just received the subpoena. I go up to that little window next to your Penfield Town Court. I say to the elderly woman, "What happened?" And this is what she says to me about Jermaine Beman. Adjournment of dismissal. What is that? I don't know if she has it incorrect or if there is such a thing. James Finley Jr., given your age, which I think is about 70, do you know what I'm talking about? You negotiated a deal with Jessica Wagner of the District Attorney's Office and the attorney for Jermaine Beman to let this violent criminal and predator walk right out the door after he attacked me. And then I'm in Monroe County Jail because of John P. Lomenzo Jr. Do you understand this language I'm using, James Finley Jr., about you? And what I'm going to tell the Office of Court Administration about you? I have to consider that nobody watches me because I will write this down. I'll say in the transcript of what I'm saying. So I'll write this down in a coherent way. I'll try to achieve coherence. And then I'll send the transcript of this to you, James Finley Jr. So you will see that I've said this to you on YouTube. I've said this to you on this TikTok app. And then it's in writing. And what's your response, James Finley Jr.? Because you embrace violence. I'll say this. Documentation signed by Penfield Town Court Judge James Finley Jr. for the case of defendant Jermaine L. Beman with the assigned employee at the District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Jessica Wagner. The assigned employee at the District Attorney's Office, Perry Duckles, Jessica Wagner, believes in violence. This Paul C. Metzer is one person, is in Penfield Town Court. She goes into this vile, sick room, and she thinks, I want to send this Christopher Chichester Penfield to jail. Because when I walked into the Penfield Public Library, and your violent psychopath with the last name Siemens, another Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee, they follow me into the library. I stand up at the computer. Siemens runs at me. He holds out his arm. He clotheslines me. He hits me in the head. He knocks me down. So it's the force of Siemens' arm hitting me in the head. Then when I fell down on ceramic tile, my head again hit ceramic tile. This is a monstrous, violent attack upon me by your employee, Siemens. Siemens picks me up, puts the handcuffs on. As they're frog marching me out of the library, Siemens says to me, you have 12 warrants for your arrest. Because $28,000 Paul C. Metzer is sitting in Little Penfield Town Court as one person deciding I should be in jail. And then when I'm taken down to this room, there she is waiting for me, and there is no employee of the district attorney's office present. There's no one. It's Paul C. Metzer, Siemens, the fellow psychopath with Siemens, and that's it. I'm declared guilty of something, and I'm driven to Livingston County Jail in Geneseo. What would you think, Sandra, if Aaron Doorley was violently attacked at a library, and then one judge sentences Aaron Doorley to jail when a prosecutor's not present? And then when I'm at Livingston County Jail, I'm going to the kiosk day after day. I'm saying, how long will I be here? And this is what I'm told by Regina Harper, the Monroe County Public Defender, quote, the judge is holding you. So I'm violently attacked at this library. I'm driven to Livingston County Jail in Geneseo, where I don't live. And then I'm being held in Livingston County Jail by this $28,000 skinhead widow who gets a thrill out of being a psychopath. So, Freedom of Information Law, a copy of every warrant for the arrest of Christopher Charges, 26 Sandra Drive, Penfield, by Penfield County Judge Paul C. Metzer. You know what you're going to do, Paul C. Metzer? Because this is coming. And I'm going to show you this specifically, you skinhead widow. This says right here. Now, you're going to sign for this. Right here, Paul C. Metzer, 1985 Bad Road. What I just read here, you will sign for it. You will look at this and you will refuse. Because I demand this. I'm going to send this to the United States Department of Justice, the Office of Court Administration, and I'm going to write to each saying, this disgusting, sickening hack is writing warrants for my arrest as one person wants to send me to jail. State legislature needs to reform this law about a bench trial. That's not a trial. The 1984 Justice of Monroe County, a bench trial is when one judge just declares you guilty, and there is no trial. A trial is with a jury of 12. One judge that you appear in front of is not a trial ever. Driving while intoxicated. How many employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office have been arrested for driving while intoxicated, Todd Baxter? How simple is it to answer that question? Have you ever been told, since you took office on January 1, 2018, that an employee of the Sheriff's Office has been arrested for driving while intoxicated? What's the answer, Todd Baxter? Freedom of Information Law. The number of employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, arrested for driving while intoxicated. Freedom of Information Law. The number of employees of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, arrested for driving while intoxicated. What's the answer, you pathetic diva? An employee that's an assistant district attorney or other employee at the district attorney's office who has a DWI cannot be in that office. This is where you get a pass from this ridiculous media that is the Democratic Chronicle, this radio and television that behave as if you're not even here in Rochester. You're not even here in Monroe County. How is this answered? I have seen how these can go away in Albany, specifically, because I knew someone who was a real friend. I got one. It vanished. It's a long time ago in Albany. And I think things are different now. But I'll know if things are different when I eventually move back there. And you know what I think? I think I'm going to be in Albany. I'll be living right there in the city, and I love that city with every fiber of my being. And you'll try to compel me to come into some court somewhere in Monroe County when I no longer live here in Rochester, when I no longer live in Monroe County. Please try to do that to me. Number of employees at the district attorney's office arrested for driving while intoxicated. Cannot work at the district attorney's office. Have you ever been pulled over? Have you ever been picked up, Sandra Doorley? Have you ever been a few drinks where you were over the limit? Only you knew, Sandra Doorley. Only you know you're behind that wheel. For your information, the number of employees in New York State Supreme Court, 99 Exchange Boulevard, Rochester, New York, arrested for driving while intoxicated. This is where Duke of New York A #1 Alex Renzi is going to look at this. I hope he thinks, is he talking about me? Because at the Magistrates Association, there was an event where there were photographs of him, and it was alarming the way he looked. I do not know if he's drunk. And I said to him subsequently in New York State Supreme Court, are you an alcoholic, Alex? Because I'm trying to enrage him. I don't conform to the normal behavior of a defendant in the courtroom. Because conforming to the normal behavior of a defendant in the courtroom lands me in jail as an innocent man 6 times. But it was alarming what he looked like. And he stared at me with hatred. So I hope he stares at this with hatred too. Paul C. Metzer, James Finley Jr., the $28,000 hack, the $34,000 hack. You ever been picked up? Freedom of Information Law. The number of employees in Penfield Town Court, 1985 Bad Road, Penfield, New York, arrested for driving while intoxicated. Minors. Back again to my experience in Albany, there was one friend in particular, but I noticed this with others that I know, even acquaintances. They want to get their friends and family members on the payroll, and in particular, they want their children on the payroll. So, do you have minors on the payroll? It's that simple. Do you have minors on the payroll that are related to Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees? It's that simple. For the Sheriff's Office and District Attorney's Office. What's the answer? This is nepotism. There's a difference between nepotism, which is children receiving jobs, and patronage is with friends and family members receiving jobs. Do you understand the distinction between nepotism and patronage? Because I believe there's nepotism and patronage at the Sheriff's Office, District Attorney's Office. What's the answer, Todd Baxter, Sandra Doorley? Exists in that stone cold silence of corruption. Freedom of information. A number of minors on the public employee payroll of Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd Baxter. The number of minors on the public employee payroll of Monroe County Sheriff's Office who are related to Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees. The number of minors on the public employee payroll of Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. The number of minors on the public employee payroll of Monroe County District Attorney's Office are related to Monroe County District Attorney's Office employees. Perry Douglas, who I believe is the de facto District Attorney in Monroe County, nobody elected because of the radical decline of the health of Sandra Doorley. I don't know anything about you, I don't know anything about your life, and that's the way it should be. If you have children, or if you have nieces and nephews, Perry Douglas, have they ever been on the payroll of the District Attorney's Office? What's the answer? Do you know other employees at the District Attorney's Office? Like true superwoman Julie Hahn, who's now in Monroe County Court. Well, she's on there, well, she's not the victor. With 17% of the vote, does true superwoman Julie Hahn ever have her children, her friends, her family members on the payroll? Nepotism and patronage. I believe that you're infested with nepotism and patronage at the Sheriff's Office, District Attorney's Office. You, Todd Baxter, think you're a radio star behind the badge with MCSO? Todd Baxter, the way radio works is that there is a producer, and the producer can be the person interviewing you, and the producer is the one responsible for the dissemination of the interview when it's complete, and also for setting up the interview and how the questions are going to be asked, the structure of the interview. So you have your behind the badge with MCSO. How much is this costing taxpayers? Because what you do, Todd Baxter, is you tell one of your fellow psychopaths to sit in front of a microphone and ask you questions. This is what you're doing with yourself? You're in front of a microphone? Will you being asked questions? You should be in your office regarding crime and violence descending on the city of Rochester? When I say you're a joke, when I use that word, this specifically, precisely is why you're a joke. This specifically, precisely is why you, Sheriff Todd Baxter, are corrupt. Freedom of information law. The cost of taxpayers for production of the, quote, behind the badge with MCSO, end quote, podcast for Sheriff Todd K. Baxter declares his intent to be, quote, as transparent as possible. That's a lie. I'm forcing you to be as transparent as possible. And you're refusing over and over and over. Todd Baxter, are you transparent, Todd Baxter? As transparent as possible? You've refused every single time. That's not transparency. That's why you're corrupt. What I just held up is why you're corrupt. What happens when your employee works beyond a 40th hour? Because personnel decisions can be made in different ways. They could be compensatory time when the employee's taking time off. In Albany, it used to be compensatory time. If you work 3 straight weeks of 50 hours, then those 10 hours from the 41st hour to the 50th hour would be 30 hours, and then it would accumulate. You could take that time off. That's compensatory time, and work on a campaign, which is what I did. That's the way compensatory time works. There's compensatory time where you're not paid anything, and then there's overtime, a time and a half where you are paid when the 41st hour arrives. How's that done at the Sheriff's Office and District Attorney's Office? You refuse, and this specifically, precisely, is why you're corrupt. Freedom of information law. Does Sheriff Todd K. Baxter allow compensatory time to employees that have worked time beyond the standard 40-hour work week that is quote vacation time when the Monroe County Sheriff Office employee is paid? Freedom of information law. Does District Attorney Sandra allow compensatory time to employees that have worked beyond the standard 40-hour work week that is not quote vacation time and quote with the Monroe County District Attorney's Office employees paid? Financial disclosure. I didn't receive it, Todd Baxter. I didn't receive it, Sandra Doorley. Why not? Paul C. Metzler sent me your financial disclosure. This can remove you from office. Todd Baxter, this specifically precisely is why you're corrupt. Where's your money, you skinhead stooge and party switcher? Do you understand what I'm demanding of you, Todd Baxter, that you will sign for here? This specifically precisely is why you're corrupt, Todd Baxter. I'm going to show you here why. Now, today, on this January 11th, 2023, it says right here, You're going to get it. So this is going to arrive at your office. This specifically precisely is why you're corrupt. You, Todd Baxter, and you right here saying Doorley. You will look at this here. Freedom of Information Law, the personal financial disclosure of Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, and you refuse. That's why you're corrupt. Freedom of Information Law, the personal financial disclosure of District Attorney Sandra Doorley. You refuse. That's why you're corrupt. Duke of New York, A#1 here, will refuse also. Freedom of Information Law, the personal financial disclosure of Supervising Judge of New York State Supreme Court 7th Judicial District that has Alex Renzi. Now, James C. Mully Jr., Paul C. Metzler sent me the financial disclosure, but you didn't. Why? Are you hiding something? James C. Mully Jr., I'm not a conspiracy theorist. If you're refusing to send me a personal financial disclosure when Paul C. Metzler sent it to me, why? Freedom of Information Law, the personal financial disclosure of Penfield Town Court Judge James C. Mully Jr. Now, how do you discipline your employees? Your employees have violently attacked me over and over, seems at the Penfield Public Library. Your employee that ran at me at Wegmans and knocked me down. At Wegmans, I've said this over and over. Your employee, Todd Baxter, with the Marine-style military haircut and the tattoos, that's a female. Watch your employee when your 5 vehicles and your 10-plus psychopaths descended on me. He got out of his vehicle, he ran at me, knocked me down. My head slammed down on the concrete pavement. I had to get an MRI for which I was billed. I'm going to send you that bill. Pay that bill. That's the price of violence. I've held it up before, but since I was evicted, that bill is gone. But I can get that bill from the University of Rochester because I still owe it. So when I write to you and tell you, Todd Baxter, to pay this bill, I'm going to go into more detail about this. Call your employee. You know exactly what I'm talking about. There's no one at the sheriff's office that looks like her. And I subsequently saw her and said, you saw this employee attack me. You watched this employee attack me. And she didn't say anything. You've sworn officers of law, Todd Baxter, with that holstered weapon of violently attacking me over and over and over. How are they disciplined? I know the answer. You have no disciplinary process whatsoever because you're corrupt. Freedom of Information Law. The internal disciplinary records of documentation of employees of Montgomery Sheriff's Office of Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. Sheriff Todd K. Baxter is reprimanded, terminated, disemployment at the Montgomery Sheriff's Office. It takes an abomination like Brandy Cadiz, who committed a robbery on Ladder Road, for you to fire someone. There are abominations that only you know about, Todd Baxter, that you will tolerate and withstand because you're the blue wall of silence. The Donna Karan of silence. Sandra Doorley. Do you fire employees at the district attorney's office yourself? Do you have someone else do it? Should you fire an assistant district attorney who doesn't talk as a defendant has been delivered to jail? Because a prosecutor has never talked in court for me. How am I in jail? District Attorney Sandra Doorley, when a prosecutor doesn't talk in court. How am I in jail 6 times when a prosecutor doesn't talk in court? Because you're corrupt, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. Freedom of Information Law. Quote, the internal disciplinary records of documentation of employees at the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. The District Attorney Sandra Doorley is reprimanded, terminated, disemployment at the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office. Reprimanded, terminated, disciplined. Language requires precision. I was just precise about that. Tell me the answer. Take this YouTube link, if you're watching me, Perry Duckles, and bring it to your corrupt boss and tell her to disclose what I'm demanding. Freedom of Information Law. Sick days. This can remove you from office. You, Todd Baxter, are different than Sandra Doorley. Because as far as I know, you're in relatively good health. And you certainly don't use your health for political reasons to score sympathy with people. She does. So what's the number of sick days for you, Todd Baxter, and your sheriff's office employees? Because it can be abused. And that's time lost. And that's money taxpayers are paying for employees not to go to work. Freedom of Information. The total number of sick days used by Sheriff Todd K. Baxter from January 1, 2022 to January 12, 2023. When I contact Control Town and speak to Napoli, I'll tell them to ask you this. And then what do you say? It's going to be that rambling, that incoherence, that ridiculous, sick refusal of you to answer questions. This is the Donna Karan silence here. How many sick days have you had, pathetic diva? How many sick days have your employees had? Freedom of Information Law. Total number of sick days used by District Attorney Sandra Doorley from January 1, 2022 to January 12, 2023, which is today. These two hacks here in Penfield Town Court. What's the answer? Freedom of Information Law. Total number of sick days, the total number of hours employees at Penfield Town Court have accumulated by the number of sick days, the number of hours. Your conviction integrity unit. I've demanded this over and over. Why do you have to have a conviction integrity unit? The answer is in instances in jail. comply, disclose the information I'm demanding. Freedom of information. The documentation assigned by District Attorney Sandra to create a quote conviction integrity unit within the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. How many district attorneys of the 62 counties of the state of New York have a separate bureaucracy or had to create a bureaucracy because citizens are in jail? Freedom of information law. The minutes of every conviction integrity unit meeting of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. There are public meetings laws in the state of New York. If this thing met, when did it meet? Are there meetings? Is there a transcript? Or is this just your ridiculous public relations vehicle? Because you know you have to have something like this contraption as innocent citizens are in jail, when prosecutors don't talk in court, avoiding the names of my prosecutors' silence. You pathetic Donna Coran diva. Freedom of information law. The names and salaries of every public employee at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd Baxter. A list of every public employee at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office by length of employment years, the day, month, and year the employee is hired. I received both of them from the District Attorney's Office. That's why I'm not going to read that for them. Todd Baxter, length of employment leads to corruption. You have an employee at Monroe County Jail. He's in the vicinity of 70. I think he's been in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office for 40 eternal years. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And if I receive what the District Attorney's Office did send me, length of employment, how long your employees have been at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, I'll be able to easily identify this employee who I believe is in the vicinity of 70. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Todd Baxter, you forcibly retire Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees at the age of 62. Todd Baxter, you forcibly retire Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees that are not in a physical condition to perform his job. The answer is no, because you're corrupt. When you get to the 41st hour, there is a different way to pay employees. How's that done at the Sheriff's Office, District Attorney's Office? You're fleecing taxpayers at that Sheriff's Office and District Attorney's Office. There's no doubt about it. I guarantee you, Todd Baxter, you're fleecing taxpayers. I guarantee you, Sandra Doorley, you're fleecing taxpayers because you're refusing to answer here. Freedom of information law. Total cost of overtime, time and a half while paid beyond base salaries calculated at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office of Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. Freedom of information law. Total cost of overtime, time and a half while paid beyond base salaries calculated at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. This is sick days. This is as specific and precise as it can be in a simple way. What's the answer? Freedom of information law. The total number of sick days and total number of hours employees at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, have accumulated by one, the number of sick days and number of hours. If you're called by an auditor from Controller Thomas P. DiNapoli's office in Albany, and you're asked to answer this, what's your answer, Todd Baxter? You will refuse. And that silence is specifically, precisely why you're corrupt. Freedom of information law. Total number of sick days and total number of hours employees at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, that have been accumulated by the number of sick days and number of hours. It's understandable if an employee throughout the course of one calendar year has 7 or 8 sick days. 30 sick days, something's going on with that employee. If that employee has not been diagnosed with something really serious. There have been times in my life, especially when I was a young man, after going out on a Wednesday or Thursday night in Albany, Washington, D.C., doing things I shouldn't have been doing, going to bars and having a good time, which is what you're supposed to do when you're 26 years old. And I drag myself out of bed. I cannot miss work. I have to go into the office. I believe that 90% of American citizens have been through this. Where you're thinking about, you got that aspirin, you're trying to hydrate yourself. It's terribly embarrassing to have to do this because you know better. You know this is not how you should live your life. Is this how they're living their lives? The Sheriff's Office, the District Attorney's Office, when they're going out on Thursday nights because they want to get that 3-day weekend in? And they're drinking and partying and having a good time. There's nothing wrong with drinking and partying. There's something wrong with drinking and partying when you can't go to work the next day. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because this is the first time I've said this. What's the answer, Todd Baxter, Sandra Doorley? Existing that stone cold silence of corruption. Freedom of information law, total number of sick days, total number of hours employees at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, that have been accumulated by the number of sick days, the number of hours. Total number of sick freedom of information law, total number of sick days, total number of hours. Supervising Judge Alice Renzi, 7th Judicial District, New York State Supreme Court, have accumulated by the total number of sick days, total number of hours. Again, these judges, it is sickening. This Alex Renzi's in there. He's going to look at this, I hope, in a rage, thinking, why is he asking me about my sick days? The reason why is he's paid $208,000 to be in there with 24% of the vote. These ballot access laws are a disgrace in New York. No judge anywhere in the state of New York, in any county, should be in there with 24% of the vote. These multi-candidate fields, just like Julie Hahn, in there where they're not the victor. They're not even remotely close to 50% of the vote. It's understandable if someone doesn't achieve 50, if you're in there with 42% and 43%, because presidents have been elected with those totals. Somebody who is a judge that could destroy life is 24% of the vote because they're candidate after candidate on the ballot, and the person who doesn't win, like Julie Hahn, is in office. You know exactly what I'm talking about, especially at the district attorney's office. Perry Douglas, do you believe that that's corruption? That a judge is on a court who's not the victor? Is that corruption, Perry Douglas? Is it corruption for Alex Renzi to be in New York State Supreme Court, 24% of the vote? Is that corruption? The answer is yes. Now, is there sexual harassment at the sheriff's office, district attorney's office? I do not use the term sexual harassment in here because it's too limited. Tell me what the answer is. Freedom of information law. The cost taxes of Monmouth County Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, spending taxpayer dollars, settle employment-related discrimination lawsuits fail to comply with the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Freedom of information law. The cost taxpayers of Monmouth County District Attorney Sandra, Doorley, spending taxpayer dollars, settle employment-related discrimination lawsuits fail to comply with Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This is the 4th Judicial Department Attorney Grievance Committee that I will go to. If you can eject yourself from that corruption and fanaticism, you Donna Coran, idiot Sandra Doorley, and disclose the names of my prosecutors sounds. Freedom of information law. The number of complaints written or filed by defendants about attorneys, employees of the Monmouth County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, with the 4th Judicial Department Attorney Grievance Committee. And when I go to this 4th Judicial Department, there's one name I already know to seek this employee's disbarment at the District Attorney's Office, and that's you, Sandra Doorley. That weapon can be used on an innocent citizen at any point. What's the basic marksmanship? How easy is it to answer that question? And you will refuse. Freedom of information law. What is the basic marksmanship requirement for employees of the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office? Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. This is your $0 freak. How many sheriff's offices in the state of New York have a $0 employee? Are you Michael Rather pay private money from the campaign accounts Todd Baxter created in 2017 when he ran for election? Are you Michael Rather pay private money from the campaign accounts Todd Baxter created in 2021 when he's reelected? Are you paid any sum of money that is private money anywhere for you to go into Monmouth County Sheriff's Office? Michael Rather, because you're not a double dipper, which I assumed you to be a double dipper before I acquired the payroll. I went right for your name, zero. What do you do with the sheriff's office for $0, Michael Rather? Do you understand that you're a joke? The answer is no. You're a Jonestown Kool-Aid drinker. Freedom of information law. The day in your Monmouth County Sheriff Todd K. Baxter rehired Michael Rather after his 20-year career ended on January 1, 2018, and send to the email address listed below the documentation signed by Sheriff Baxter rehire Rather. What's not to understand? You skinhead stooge and party switcher, you rehired this guy for no money. So when you rehired him, there is documentation. Send it to me. And that's going to be your validation. You want this $0 freak shining your shoes every day. This is fanaticism that I never thought that I would experience in my life. From you, Todd Baxter, and you, Sandra Doorley. And this is it right here. Ellie Roth works at 2025 Pemper. I'm trying to hold the phone without the glare because I know that you can embarrass and humiliate me when I use that phrase. That is a camera, also called a surveillance device. I was initially on it when I told Steve Devson of Brock Hole Tree and Lawn Care nobody owns the land next to my residence in Penfield. That's not a crime. It has an assigned number called an ICN number. The first time I saw myself on this contraption, Todd Baxter, is this private technology you're using right here, 2025 Penfield Road? Or did you buy it and fix it for me? This is a sickness, a hatred, a malevolence because of $67,000 Shannon Meyer you have not fired, right? Of all the freaks in the sheriff's office, $67,000 Shannon Meyer is the freak. Freedom of information law. The cost of a surveillance device purchased with taxpayer dollars by Monmouth County Sheriff's Todd K. Baxter and affixed to a building in 2025 Penfield Road to monitor for Christopher Child Shifts, 26 Sanders Farm Drive, walks through the parking lot next to the building, and that's the lunatic French. I don't have a picture here for this, but I've showed this multiple times. The cost of photography session photograph 10 Monmouth County Sheriff's Office employees underwater and pool approved by Todd Baxter. Take pictures of your employees underwater and pool, a joke. I don't have a picture in the interest of time. Just like I'm not going to show Ryan Fisher in Atlanta, Georgia, because I've showed that multiple times. Tell me the price of Ryan Fisher going from Rochester, New York, where he's supposed to work, to Atlanta, Georgia. Freedom of information law. The cost of a hotel and plane ticket for Monmouth County Sheriff's Office employee Ryan Fisher to attend the Super Bowl in Atlanta, Georgia, February 3rd, 2019. This specifically precisely is why you corrupt Todd Baxter. He needed a plane ticket. He needed a hotel room. That's your documentation when you're signing off on a plane ticket for Ryan Fisher, when you're signing off on a hotel, when you're signing off on per diem for him, this is why you're corrupt. He should always be in Monroe County doing his job, and he's in Atlanta, Georgia, with his canine German Shepherd, Lola, for the Super Bowl. I think Thomas P. DiNapoli will look at this, the controller of the state of New York, think, I've never seen a sheriff behave like this. This is new as far as corruption in the state of New York. I'm not exaggerating. I think that Thomas P. DiNapoli will look at that and think, what is he doing there in Monroe County, fleecing taxpayers? And that's exactly what you're doing when he's in Atlanta, Georgia, and send me the documentation for you fleecing taxpayers, because this is the FOIL that compels you to send it to me. Freedom of information law, documentation, a voucher, or other documentation signed by Sheriff Todd K. Baxter to purchase an airline ticket and a hotel room for Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee Ryan Fisher to travel to Atlanta, Georgia for Super Bowl on February 3rd, 2019. This is the FOIL about his dog, because he needs money to take care of his dog. Freedom of information law, the cost for the care and feeding of Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee Ryan Fisher's German Shepherd Lola during his trip to Atlanta, Georgia on February 3rd, 2019. I'm the only human being ever in the United States of America to write a freedom of information law about a Sheriff's Office employee. So about the physical training standards, you have none. Why? Why aren't your Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees physically fit, Todd Baxter? There's no excuse for it at all. They can't even run 2 miles in 24 minutes or even 30 minutes. Your employees could not go to the track at Penfield High School, where I finished a 5K for a race called the Penfield Education Foundation. Your employees, if they were told, I believe 50% of the employees run around this track twice, don't stop, 50% of them wouldn't be able to do it. Why is that, Todd Baxter? Why don't you demand physical fitness for your employees? When you look at employees right in front of you, Todd Baxter, and you can see that this employee is 30 pounds overweight, does it occur to you that that Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee is placing his own life at risk? What is wrong with you, Todd Baxter? And don't you care about the health and safety of your own Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees? Because the answer is no, because you don't demand physical fitness. You're allowing them to place their lives at risk. Freedom of information law. What are the physical training standards and requirements of Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter? And if there's a standard requirement, does it include 1 running, 2 push-ups, 3 sit-ups? What is not to understand about this? And institute a physical training program, because you have none. And since you're a veteran and you served, you know about the PT test, and you have done PT, and you're not taking that experience and transferring it to the Sheriff's Office. When I was with the 17th Cavalry, the Rangers were attached, and I was in awe of them and their physical appearance, their strength. It really was, to me, incredible the way these Rangers handled themselves physically at PT and elsewhere at the 17th Cavalry. And you don't have any type of unit like that at the Sheriff's Office. You don't have any group at all that is just like these Rangers that are in top physical condition. Why? What's the status of violence at Monroe County Jail? Because you have no control over your jail. I've been attacked at your jail. Are there criminal actions at jail? Do you report them to the district attorney's office? And do you, Sandra, Doorley, prosecute criminal actions at the jail? Freedom of information law. The number of criminal actions where an inmate appeared in court for a criminal charge where the criminal act or charge occurred at Monroe County Jail from January 1, 2023, January 12, 2023, which is today. She's assigned an arresting officer of accountability, facts, and circumstances, which is exactly what this says. Because when a citizen is violently attacked, like me, with Siemens at the Penfield Public Library, like with your anonymous freak at Webb's ran at me, knocked me down, my head slammed down on the concrete pavement, then that assigned arresting officer responsible for facts and circumstances of arrest. You want to shield your employees behind that blue wall silence. Freedom of information law. The Sheriff Todd K. Baxter assigned arresting officer temporary arrest for accountability, facts, and circumstances of the arrest. The answer is no. Send me the name and charge your inmates. Again, you buffoon and stooge. Separate your nonviolent inmates from the nonviolent inmates from the violent inmates. Pardon me. It's that simple. You got the murderers, the rapists, the arsonists walking around there with the insurance scammers. Or if they're not insurance scammers, they're committing some type of nonviolent crime. Separate your violent inmates from your nonviolent inmates to prevent the violent inmates from attacking the nonviolent inmates. What is not to understand? When I call you a skinhead and a stooge, this is precisely why. Well, I have to tell you how to run your own jail. Sheriff Todd K. Baxter of Monroe County. Freedom of information law. The name and charge of every man in Monroe County, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter of Monroe County Jail from January 2018 to January 12, 2023. I want to see for the last 5 years, everybody. You don't have those records. I already know the answer. Freedom of Information Law. Do you, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, hire employees at the Montgomery Sheriff's Office based on race or gender? I don't like to talk about party politics on here, but Democrats are obsessed about race and gender, and you, Todd Baxter, are a new Democrat because you decided to be a Democrat from running for sheriff because you wanted that access. What's the answer? Do you hire employees, as it says here, based on race or gender? Same thing for you, you Donna Karan idiot. How would you answer this question again when the media will never ask you a question like this? I just did. What's the answer? I'll contact you in writing with this because I don't know if you watch me. I'll never know. Freedom of Information Law. Do you, District Attorney Sandra, hire employees at the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office based on race or gender? The answer should be no, always. Matters is the content of your character and not the color of your skin, as the late, great Martin Luther King said over and over and over. What are the names of these prosecutors? Is this Julie Hahn, Donna Karan idiot, Sandra Doorley? I'm going to contact her directly and ask her. Every single name I'm demanding here, stone cold silence. How am I in jail when a prosecutor doesn't talk to court? It's John P. Lomenzo Jr., it's Paul C. Messrs. Alex Renzi, not one syllable. No citizen anywhere in the state of New York should ever be in jail when a prosecutor doesn't talk to court. This is the corruption of silence from you, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, where you're refusing to even disclose the names. I believe Attorney General Merrick Garland picked up the phone himself and called you and said, disclose the names of your prosecutor, this citizen, Chris Chichester, New York County. You would still refuse. That will never happen. But I believe it did happen. You would still refuse because you're corrupt, Sandra Doorley. Freedom of Information Law. Documentation for the case of Christopher Chichester for John P. Lomenzo Jr. in Penn Town Court. What is the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Doorley? Total silence as I'm in jail. Freedom of Information Law. Documentation for the case of Christopher Chichester before Paul C. Messrs. in Penn Town Court. What is the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Doorley? Total silence as I'm in jail. Freedom of Information Law. Documentation for the case of Christopher Chichester, New York State Supreme Court for Alex Renzi. What is the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Doorley? Total silence as I'm in jail. I'm particularly interested in the name of the prosecutor for Paul C. Messrs. Regina Harper, the Montgomery County Public Defender, said to me, quote, the prosecutor's not backing down. I went up to him in Penn Town Court. I said to him, you're going to stand there and not say one word? That's exactly what he did. This is a list of defendants that I believe I have received from you. Paul C. Messrs. I have not, so I'm not going to read that. But this better be a list of defendants. My name should be on it. So I did receive this from you. So I'm not going to read that for that's on here. So I demanded that from you and Mully. And what I did, this is the corruption of Montgomery County, where Paul C. Metzer and James Mully Jr., if it's one or both, send me that documentation I have not looked at. And when I say looked at, I'll try to analyze it, and using the word analyze in the best sense of the word. Because my neighbor should be on it too. That's how I'll know if it's accurate. If his name is on it, my name is on it, his name is on it, then it's accurate, or should be accurate. Duke of New York ain't number one here. Alex Renzi doesn't think he has to provide information to anyone. The corruption of these courts in the state of New York is nauseating. And this Alex Renzi, in there with 24% of the vote, where he's just declaring me guilty, is nauseating. Freedom of Information Law, list of defendants in the New York State Supreme Court for supervising Judge Alex Renzi from January 1, 2021 to December 31, 2022. So I'm asking 2 calendar years. Paul C. Metzer, he didn't send me, was definitely not in those documents there, is the quote defective documents where John P. Lomenzo Jr. in Penn Town Court released accused child rapist Daniel Glaus III because he knows the family, and John P. Lomenzo Jr. doesn't recuse himself from the appearance of Daniel Glaus III because he knows the family. This is the corruption. This is a little vile room. Freedom of Information Law, the defective documents cited by John P. Lomenzo Jr., Democratic Chronicle newspaper about the case of Daniel Glaus III. This is travel time Baxter. This can remove you from office because it's so easy to understand. Freedom of Information Law, the cost of taxpayers for all travel out of Montgomery County, New York State by employees of Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. This can remove you from office, Sandra Doorley, because it's so easy to understand. The cost of taxpayers for all travel out of Montgomery County, New York State by employees of the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. Same thing with Alex Renzi. Freedom of Information Law, the cost of taxpayers for all travel out of Montgomery County, New York State by employees of the New York State Supreme Court, 7th Judicial District, that is Alex Renzi. These 2 hacks here, the $28,000, $34,000 hack, you leaving Montgomery County, go over Albany, Washington, D.C. What's the answer? Freedom of Information Law, the cost of taxpayers for all travel out of Montgomery County, New York State by employees of Penn Town Court, Paul C. Metzer, James Mully Jr., John P. Lomenzo Jr. This is you and Watkins Glen, you buffoon, stooge, and party switcher. How much was the cost of that trip? And you refuse to answer this specifically, precisely. So why you, Sheriff Todd Baxter, are corrupt. The cost, Freedom of Information Law, the cost of the trip to Watkins Glen, New York by Sheriff Todd K. Baxter to the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office spent tax dollars for a hotel, a plane ticket per diem. Who did you take with you? Your groupies, your flunkies, your Kool-Aid drinkers? You didn't drive you there by yourself. Somebody drove you there. Who is it? Freedom of Information Law. Total number of employees that escorted Sheriff Todd Baxter to his trip to Watkins Glen, New York. Freedom of Information Law. The cost to taxpayers of District Attorney Sandra Doorley attended the Saratoga Springs, New York District Attorneys Association of the State of New York Summer Conference. This is the undersheriffs. Did you go? I don't know. I don't know who the undersheriff is. It used to be Corey Brown. It's not. Did you go to the undersheriff training conference? What's the answer, Todd Baxter? This specifically precisely is why I corrupt. You refused to answer. You refused to tell me if you sent any employee of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office to the undersheriff's training conference in Saratoga. The cost of taxpayers of Saratoga Springs, New York, Sheriff Todd Baxter approved expenditure of taxpayer dollars to attend the undersheriff's training conference at the Geeting Putnam Motel in Saratoga Springs without a Learjet. So you got it. You have everything. And what I just sent to you arrived, like I said, the UPS here. It also arrived here. And this is the cover letter. Every Freedom of Information Law I read. This is the cover letter that's on top of this that's going to come to your office tomorrow. Comply with the attached PDF dated January 12, 2023. That is 70 Freedom of Information Law documents. This includes identification of my prosecutor's silence, mailing the information I demand to the address in the form. The address is 620 Park Avenue, PMB number 361, Rochester, New York, 14604. And again, with the printing, all the printing I'm doing here is Patrick's printing. Today was Patrick's printing on the 12th, $102.60 to print all that and send it to you. On the 11th, it was $108.93. On January 9th, it was $214.17. And January 6th, $109, and it goes on and on and on. All the hundreds of dollars of spending on printing or demanding information from you, and you are fanatically refusing to send me information. District Attorney Sandra Doorley, Sheriff Todd Baxter, Paul C. Matchman, James C. Mully Jr., and Penfield Town Court, Alex Renzi, New York State Supreme Court, because you're corrupt.